The game industry is brutal, especially so in recent years, and it looks like things are getting even harder. Yesterday was probably one of the saddest days in gaming, at least to me, as we saw the shutdown of at least 2 studios that hadn't even gotten on their feet yet. Some of you channel regulars might remember me covering Humanoid Origin, a studio founded by Hudson, the guy who spearheaded the Mass Effect trilogy back in the day. Casey and his team were working on a brand new IP which, by all evidence, looked to be yet another sci-fi RPG in the same vein as Mass Effect, sort of like what Archetype Entertainment is doing with the upcoming Exodus Become the Traveler. While we hadn't seen any footage of the actual game just yet, the concept art and the description of their new game was very enticing and suggested that this was going to be an epic experience throughout the stars, with a huge focus on player engagement. Their official website specifically states 2 beliefs to support this. 1, that the future of entertainment is interactive, and 2, the best entertainment involves worlds, characters, and storytelling. Unfortunately, Casey just posted on LinkedIn saying the following. Earlier today, we informed our staff that Humanoid Origin will be shutting down. Despite efforts to shield the studio from broader challenges in the industry, an unexpected shortfall of funding left us unable to sustain operations. We're heartbroken that we will not be able to bring our new science fiction universe to completion. Our main concern at this time, however, is for our team, and we are committed to supporting them in their transition to new employment. In our time together, the team achieved incredible progress and demonstrated that it's possible to do amazing work while fostering a culture of fun and creativity. We thank them for their talent, courage, and friendship. Thank you to everyone who supported us throughout our journey. Now this is a blow to me personally, being not only a huge RPG buff, but a sci-fi and Mass Effect nerd as well. Seeing this happen just really stings because I could really see the potential of us entering into a new era of sci-fi games, where the original creators of one of the greatest IPs of all time were going to give us yet another, hopefully, great IP. But that's not all, unfortunately, as yet another studio that had started up just relatively recently, that being Worlds Untold, founded by Mac Walters, who was one of the lead writers for Mass Effect besides Drew Karpyshyn, and also led the charge on Mass Effect Legendary Edition, has also shut down. Or well, the development of their game has been put on pause indefinitely, with Mac saying on LinkedIn, "It's hard to find the right words for this, but I wanted to share that we've made the very difficult decision to pause operations at Worlds Untold while we search for a new partner to help bring our vision to life. This was not a decision we made lightly, it's been a deeply personal journey, and we're all so proud of everything this team has built together. In the meantime, our incredible team members will be exploring new opportunities. If you're looking for passionate, talented professionals, please reach out. I'd be honored to connect you with some of the best people I've ever worked with." This is a heartbreaking moment for everyone involved, but I'm deeply grateful for the support of our partners, friends, and family, and for the time we've had together at Worlds Untold. While we're pausing for now, this isn't goodbye. There's more to come, and we look forward to sharing the next chapter with you when the time is right. So, not all hope is lost, at least for Mac Walters' part, but still, what the hell is going on here? How is it possible that 2 of the most known OGs of the old BioWare crew just can't keep their studios up and running? Is it mismanagement of funds? Is it sabotage? No, it all comes down to a very simple answer. Investors. See, in the case of Casey Hudson, I think it's been pretty obvious that he dislikes being under the beck and call of a publisher. He most famously left BioWare, then came back to try to get the studio back on its feet, but then he left yet again, which partly, I suspect, is because this was an impossible task. So, Casey Hudson, the father of Mass Effect, decided to start up his own studio free of a publisher that had the final say in everything. And according to Humanoid Origin's website, the studio allowed for freedom and creativity where every developer had a voice. Now, without a publisher, you'd definitely need a serious cash cow in order to keep the studio running. And so Casey and Mac ended up getting help from one or several investors to, well, invest in their companies. Now, we don't know who the investor or investors were, but I find it really interesting that both Casey Hudson and Mac Walters Studios gets shut down almost at the same time. So part of me wonders if they were supported by the very same investors. But the real question here is, why? Why pull out of two projects that had huge brand potential? Well, either the investors are having some real economical issues on their side, or they simply didn't like what they saw, or that the studios didn't meet a certain criteria or deadline. It's impossible to say at this point. But one sneaking suspicion I have is something that spooked a lot of investors recently, and that's the biggest belly flop in recent history known as Concord. Now, the news of Concord's failure spread like wildfire earlier this year, with a project that reached several $100 million in production costs, only to result in a measly 697 peak players on Steam when it launched. Now that is a lot of damage. The failure of Concord was so bad that the studio, Firewalk Studios, had to shut down not too long after, and Concord was supposed to be a hot new IP that even Sony predicted would become a huge success. But as we know by now, they were dead wrong. Personally, I think that the massive sinking ship that was Concord spooked a hell of a lot of investors out there. Investors and publishers. An idea might look good on paper, but at the point that you've got the studio up and running, and if your game hasn't gone very far in development, that poses a huge risk because the gaming landscape is always changing. Now, there were some obvious problems with Concord, and we all know what those were at this point. I don't think I really need to explain any of that to you. And who knows, maybe Casey's and Max Games had similarities with Concord and Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, and perhaps that's why the investors pulled out. Trust me, I can already see what some of you are starting to type in the comments. But somehow, I doubt that this is the case. If anything, I think these games could have been something special, something for us older RPG fans to latch onto, such as we have for Exodus. And as someone who's been following these studios, and Casey Hudson in particular, I'd say that he's probably way more in tune with the gaming landscape than people expect. And so I doubt that they were following in Concord's footsteps, creatively speaking. Now, to Casey, Mac, and your respective teams, if you're watching this, I'm very sorry this happened. I've been looking forward to seeing what these games would end up being, and these two new IPs have been on my radar ever since they got announced, and I've been very excited to see them come into fruition. That said, I strongly suggest you look into two things: Kickstarter and Early Access. I have no doubt that there are a lot of people out there, perhaps even new investors, that would be interested in seeing these IPs see the light of day. Hell, if I was a millionaire, I would definitely look into just investing in these studios. Speaking of which, if I do have any millionaire Mass Effect sci-fi RPG fans in the audience, guys, I'm telling ya, reach out to Casey Hudson or Mac Walters, because who knows, maybe they can give you an inside look at the IPs, and maybe there's something there that might pique your interest, and maybe this situation can be salvaged somehow. Anyway, this has been a really sad situation, and my week is now ruined. But I still want to thank all of you in the Ensvin Squad for supporting the channel, and remember, you can invest into my channel directly by becoming a member and clicking this button right here. Leave those comments down below as always. This has been Mr. Holton, signing out.